Premier League primetime on tape. Jose, Cyrus, and Andre. And you know that Dave I don't play. In the field, they can talk about it all day. Look, and we moving up. You can try all you want, can't move like us. When it all comes down, they choosing us. And I do gotta say we don't give a fuck. Premier League primetime, and it's only that. Speak only facts. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Can't hold me back. Premier League primetime, better yet, it's my time. You stay on the sideline. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Premier League primetime.
Hello and welcome to Premier League Primetime, episode 4, season 2. And yet once more, I'm thrilled to be back with the rest of the Fab Four, the rest of the family. Sirius, Jose, and Andre, how are all of you doing? Hopefully we actually get a response from everybody. I literally cannot be asked. I knew the moment I said, can I get a response from everybody? I knew that was going to be, nope, absolutely not. We're not responding to any shape or form. But real talker, how are you guys doing?
Good, Davis. And yourself?
Still settling into college. Still been, shaky, like Man United's defenses of recent. And, hopefully things will get better. Andre seems to be talking on the phone at the moment. That's probably, replicating, what he'll do to Daniel Levy inevitably 18 months later when he wants Antonio Conte sacked. But serious buddy, how are you doing? Are you sort of feeling better? I know you've been sick.
No.
Well, we all hope you do get better. Going right into the past 4 match weeks again. Once more, match days 8 to 11. And once again, we're joined by a lovely and cheeky international break. I literally deny your word, Andre said, but that's okay. Serious, starting with you in Arsenal. Arsenal, they've been looking very, very good. Draw against Palace, 3-1 win against Aston Villa, winning 2-0 against Leicester, winning against Watford. Ratings for Arteta and bright sparks or players who've been looking shaky as of recent.
Yeah, I think it's been much better. I think at the beginning of the season, part of the reason why we didn't do as well is because we didn't have our 2 center backs, White and Gabriel, playing together. And I think they both looked extremely bright. I think our best player, though, I think we have to mention Emile Smith-Rowe. Got his England call-up. He's been great. I think he's just going to be our future, him and Saka, to be honest. In terms of Arteta, I've always been Arteta in. Unlike Davis, I'm not Ole in, Ole out. I'm always Arteta in. So, I give Arteta a 9, to be honest, for the last 4 games.
Yeah, and you know what? He definitely deserves that 9. Thoroughly deserved. Then the man's turning things around very, very nicely and comfortably. And congrats to Emile Smith-Rowe as well. The England call-up, well-deserved, although that wouldn't have happened if Marcus Rashford had gotten injured and dropped out. But even then, Emile Smith-Rowe should have just been in the squad anyways. And also, Ben White, honestly, this man has been unbelievable. He really, really has been top class since he's come in. He's settled in, done himself favors by being, the new man at the back to hold things together along with Gabriel. Jose, have you been impressed with Ben White since coming in, especially looking at the past 4 games?
Yeah, I've been impressed with Arsenal as a whole. I think the test will really be when they play a big team, and they'll play Liverpool soon. So we'll see how they do in that game. But I have been really impressed with how organized they've looked.
Definitely, yeah, they've been super organized. They seem like they have a system. They seem like they have a legitimate plan. It seems like they have a legitimate style of play, unlike a given manager, who we will mention later. But yeah, I've been definitely impressed with Arsenal. Arteta definitely deserves a 9. Andre, coming over to you, Aston Villa, and it just has not been good at all for Aston Villa and the former manager Dean Smith, now sacked. Lost, I believe, 5 in a row. Losses to Wolves, Arsenal, West Ham, and Southampton. Ratings for Dean Smith, and who would your bright sparks or players who just have not been good at all be?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, by the way? Because my Wi-Fi seems to be acting up a little bit. So blah, blah, blah. If I go robot voice, just, I
No,
don't
we
know.
can
give me
hear
a
you.
signal.
But
All right.
your face is still missing, like Kane this whole season, though.
Yeah, I just did that because until my Wi-Fi stabilized, I'll turn it back on. Anyway, yeah, Aston Villa, I'd probably give them like a 2 out of 10. The team had that win against United, which gave them a bit of hope, but have lost 5 matches in a row since then. They are winless. Granted, I wouldn't say they lost to anyone that is inexcusable, but we also have to keep in mind that this is far from the first time that Dean Smith's position has come into question. I think we sometimes forget how big of a club Aston Villa are. I think they have a stadium capacity of roughly 43,000. That's bigger than Leicester's, a club that was able to sign a talent like Leon Bailey. They haven't been afraid to splash the cash in a lot of transfer windows. They have a front line of Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, 2 players that have both been linked to top 6 club moves. They have a lot of makings to be a bigger club than what they're performing or showing right now. Out of 3 seasons in the Prem, the only season where there weren't being questions asked about Dean Smith was that Grealish Magic season where they finished 11th. They barely survived relegation before that, and then now this time they're not on a great run of form, and it looks like it could be another relegation battle had they kept Dean Smith. I think the club's stature should be compared with the likes of Everton, a club whose last 2 managers have been Carlo Ancelotti and Rafa Benitez. So I think Aston Villa, for me, the sacking was justified. I think they need to step it up. They need to. I think that a new manager, it's in time. A new manager needs to get a tune out of these players. I think it's maybe Steven Gerrard would be a good guy to do that.
I've been hearing from Fabrizio Romano that the final talks and the final stages are coming for Steven Gerrard taking over Aston Villa, and that deal looks like it's bound to happen. Serious, opinions on Steven Gerrard taking over Aston Villa?
Yeah, I think Zidane should take over Aston Villa.
I think that's extremely
I would love to see that.
But yes, I think a lot of people would like to see that. I mean, that'd definitely be a dream appointment for any Aston Villa fan, given his resume and given what he's won in the game. But players that you have that haven't been as of great because they've conceded a lot of goals in the past 5 games. They've lost 5 matches in a row. Players that have just haven't been great.
I mean, I think a lot of them have not looked great. Their center back, I forget his name, that gets a lot of credit. I don't think he's been great. The only one that I think has been pretty decent or has kept form is Matt Targett. Any attack that they've been doing, he's been like a focal point of it. He's getting up really high. They're playing that wing back system, so he's getting up really high. He's sending crosses to Ollie Watkins, and Danny Ings when he's played. The rest of the team, it's not been good enough. They're a bigger club than what we realize, I think.
100%. And one thing I don't get, right? How does Southgate call up, Mings and Cody, who, they're basically just the center back version of McFred and, a better version of it, and doesn't call up Ben White and Takayo Tomori? I can't be asked with that. But, it seems as if Gerrard's going to take his place. And I think that would be a good appointment for them. I think that's the right step in Gerrard's career as well. I think that will do him wonders in terms of getting him the experience he needs, which everyone's been touting him as Jurgen Klopp's long-term replacement when he leaves Liverpool, go to manage Liverpool and whatnot. But next, Jose, over to you, to Brentford, and it also has not been looking great for them. The honeymoon period has sort of taken a tumble. Losses to Chelsea, Leicester, Burnley, losing to Burnley. Yes, you heard that correctly. Losing to Burnley, and yes, losing to Norwich. Ratings for Thomas Frank and players that have stood out either on the negative or positive sides.
Yeah, it's gotta be 1 out of 10. I think it's really hard to find any kind of positives in this team at the moment. I was gonna say the same thing you said. The honeymoon is definitely over. you want me to single a few players out, I'd probably just go with the two main forwards, Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo, who have been quite anonymous in all four of these past two games. The Chelsea game might be an exception. I think they were pestering Chelsea's goal certainly in that game, but that's pretty much the extent of it. And then all the other games are, for me, they're pretty inexcusable losses. Even Leicester, Leicester just in such poor form at the moment. I think they're a team that really are there to beat.
Definitely, yeah, 100%. And next, moving into Brighton. And just before I get into Brighton, I actually wanted to go back to Arsenal for a straight minute. How much do you think Arsenal really missed the great presence of Granit Xhaka in defensive midfield? And do you really think that Arsenal could use the rock solid left back of Kolasinac and maybe throw in a cheeky bit of Holding and Callum Chambers? I mean, what would you do if Arteta did throw in those players?
Well, we've seen how we've been since Xhaka's been injured. I hate Xhaka with an absolute passion. Ever since his first season, every time I watch him, it gives me slight depression. The rest of those players, well, I don't think we're ever going to see Kolasinac again because now we have Nuno.
I mean, Kolasinac is pretty good. He's very good at defending. Put him in a cheeky back three, maybe.
Yeah, so if Gabriel and Ben White are both injured, then I don't think I'm going to watch, to be honest. Because I'm fine with Mari, but the rest I'd rather take Marcus Rojo.
You take Rojo over, cheeky Rob Balding and Callum Chambers.
Yeah, Rojo will just break a cheeky few legs. He'll be fine.
You have a point there. You definitely have a point there. But getting back to Brighton, draws against Norwich, losing 4-1 to Man City, and draws against Liverpool and Newcastle. So some good results in there. Drawing Liverpool, that's definitely decent. Of course, losing to City, something you're going to expect. But ratings for Graham Potter and players that have sit on the negative or positive spectrum, and a shithousery rating for Neil Maupay these past 4 match days.
Yeah, I think they haven't been bad. You see 3 points in 4 games. Maybe it's not the best, but I feel like they've had tough competition. I think the only game that they'll be disappointed in is the Norwich game, not getting more points from there. But a tie against Liverpool is super impressive. In terms of players that have been good, again, he had a masterclass against us, Arsenal. Cucurella, he's been great. Trossard has also been good. And also, I might say his name wrong. Enoch Mwampu.
Scored that screamer against Liverpool.
Yeah, they've been good. Maupay hasn't scored in 4 games, so he can suck a fat one. He's the disappointment.
I know how much you love Neil Maupay, just as much as Granit Xhaka. But next, we have Burnley, and Jose, I'll switch over to you. Losing to City, drawing Southampton, beating Brentford, and drawing Chelsea. So they've had some good strings of results considering it is Burnley. And what would you give Sean Dyche and bright sparks and worst players on the spectrums?
Yeah, I agree. I think Burnley they've kind of been getting into their groove again, kind of getting into the groove of getting the results that they were getting last season. I think the 1-1 against Chelsea is probably definitely evident of that. Their top performer, I'd probably go for Matthew Lowton. I think he was really good. He was really good, particularly in the win against Brentford. He scored a goal, and he's been really solid at the back as well. So I think I'd probably I'd go like a 7 out of 10 for Sean Dyche after these games.
Yeah, Matthew Lowton has been definitely putting in some quality performances, and Maxwell Cornet,
he's a good addition as well to their team.
Been throwing it out.
He suits their style very well.
He's been throwing it all over the place, but I think he's done a very good job since coming in. he's been a very, very important piece for Burnley, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would say the same. Next, going into one of Andre's favorite teams, Chelsea, and of course Chelsea have conceded only 1 goal in their past 4 games. Wins against Brentford, a thumping in Norwich, win against Newcastle, and drawing Burnley home to end before the international break. What would you give your favorite manager in the world, Thomas Tuchel, in terms of how much praise he gets, and bright sparks and players who haven't been as great, looking at players on both spectrums?
I was so pissed when I looked at the outline and saw they gave me Chelsea. I don't even want to talk about this club. Well, they sit top, despite not being the best team. I think if they got a red card against Liverpool today, I think they'd be torn apart. But look, no, they have 3 clean sheets from their last 4 matches with a goal differential of 12-1. Which is pretty impressive considering their defenders score most of their goals, making them great fantasy options. They kind of stat pad against Norwich actually, but it's fine. I think they're still the number 1 contender. They're very hard to play against, probably the most difficult team to play against. I think my thoughts on Thomas Tuchel are that he's secure in the job. I think he'd have to go on like a losing streak of 6 matches and seduce all of Roman Abramovich's ex-wives to lose his job. I'd give him a 9. Although they couldn't defeat Daishi because he's one of the best coaches in the game. They couldn't defeat my man Burnley. Daishi is a genius, one of the best managers in the game. Chelsea. They're good. They're such quality. That's it.
Any players that have stood out to you in the past 4 games on the positive or negative?
Ben Chilwell seems to have knocked Marcus Alonso off top spot.
I think everyone was expecting that at some point.
Yeah. What's his name? Mason Mount also has been in the starting line. We got that hat trick against Norwich, but I think they're not really playing with a recognized striker right now. In Lukaku's injury, they played Havertz up there. I remember that. I don't know who else.
Reece James has been outstanding.
Oh yeah, I saw an interview. He was like, "I'm in the best form of my life" or something. But yeah, Chelsea. It's Chelsea. They're still the team to beat, I think.
Definitely, they definitely are. They definitely are the team to beat at the moment. Sirius, coming back to you and Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace doing Crystal Palace do best at the Emirates, which is staying unbeaten at the Emirates, drawing Arsenal 2-2, then drawing Newcastle, and then wins against Manchester City and Wolves. So definitely some good results there for Patrick Vieira's side. Ratings for Patrick Vieira and players that have stood out on both spectrums.
Yeah, I think I'd give him an 8. It's pretty impressive, especially for such a hard schedule. I don't think they'd expect that many points. I think Conor Gallagher has been very impressive. He was one of the shots we called up. Every time, man, Benteke, 0 goals in the league, and then he has to score against us. No matter what our defense is, he has to score against us. And then, of course, he goes on and scores the next game. Impressive win against Man City. I can't really complain about them right now. They've been good. Zaha getting a goal against Wolves too. So all around pretty decent from Crystal Palace.
Definitely 100%. And one thing that I've noticed just in terms of Wilfried Zaha and his body language comparing it from last year, his body language just seems that he just looks and appears more interested, like he's willing to go the extra mile in terms of a ball recovery or in terms of a dribble or getting a shot off. He just has that extra bit of motivation that I didn't really see a whole lot of last year and seasons gone by. Jose, would you agree or would you say different?
Sorry, what would I agree with?
Just looking at Wilfried Zaha's body language this season, it just seems that he looks interested and he wants to.
Oh, yeah, I agree, definitely. He's definitely looked a lot more motivated this season than before.
Yeah, he's also interested in getting in fights with anyone in their nan.
I would agree, particularly their nan.
Yes. Well, Jose, sticking with you, we'll move to Everton, and Rafa Benitez's side, they've been looking horrendous at the moment. I think they've also lost their last 5 games in a row, bar the most recent result against Tottenham. Looking at these past 4 games, losses against West Ham, 5-2 against Watford, and Josh King scoring a hat-trick. He's coming back to haunt his former club, and losing to Wolves as well. And of course, drawing against Tottenham. But then again, it's only Tottenham, so they're not that hard to play against.
Agreed.
I mean, for crud's sake, even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer beat Tottenham. But then again, it is only Tottenham. But anyways, ratings for Rafa Benitez and Everton, and players on both sides that have stood out for you.
Yeah, I'd probably give him a 3, 4. I think his fixture list looks a lot easier than it was. West Ham and Wolves are 2 teams in really, really good form at the moment. So I think those are really difficult games. But I think it's a similar case for Everton that it was for Brentford, and the honeymoon is definitely over. I think Rafa, he had such a great start, but I think he's just gotten a little bit complacent now, and he needs to start adapting more to teams as they try to figure him out. I think if I'm going to highlight one position that they need to work on, it'd definitely be their defense. They conceded, 8 goals in 3 games, which is definitely a stark contrast to what they were conceding at the beginning of the season. So I think they really have some work to do defensively and offensively.
I agree with that 100%. And I mean, it's been so poor from Everton. But any bright sparks from these past 4 games, or players that have just been dreadful that have stood out to you?
I mean, bright sparks. Some of the players who scored, Damari Gray, Richarlison, have looked all right, but I think that overall the team needs to play more to their advantage, to their advantages, and get them more involved in the game.
Definitely. I mean, just the center of defense in particular. Just taking a look at it. I mean, Michael is horrendous at the moment. I mean, the man just he just, for me, he's looking like Lindelof at the moment. He just doesn't seem. He just gets bullied very easily at the moment. Michael Keane, I'm not a fan. Never really have been. I mean, he came to Everton like several years ago for almost, I think, 30 million pounds. I mean, for a huge price tag, and for me, he hasn't fulfilled it at all. But anyways, getting to Andre and Leeds. I mean, he hasn't been too bad from Bielsa's side. In terms of goals, not producing a whole lot, but they're getting some results, some all right, some not great. Losing against Southampton by 1-0, drawing Wolves, beating Norwich, but it's Norwich, and then drawing Leicester, which is a decent result. Ratings for Bielsa and Leeds, and players that have stood out to you, either positive or negative.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Davis. I was going to say the same thing. They're in very lukewarm form, Leeds United. I was joking around saying before that Brentford were the new Leeds, but now with these recent results, I'm not sure. You can tell Bielsa's trying to get something out of them with the number of system switches from their last few games, switching from a 3 in the back to a 4 in the back. But it's still been very lukewarm. They're still they don't really look that solid. It's just been adjustment from game to game. It's like there's always something new tactically, and they don't seem to be finding consistency right now. I wouldn't say they should consider termination yet of Marcelo Bielsa, which is a conversation considering we've had 5 sackings already in this league. I think
You'd really take it that far in terms of him being sacked?
Now football moves so fast. I think a conversation could be starting to be had, but I don't think that's why I hope that it doesn't start. I really hope it doesn't. I think what they need is maybe just a new addition to the squad in January, maybe 2, just to revitalize the squad a little bit. All they need is just to find a bit of energy, and hopefully the consistency will come. In terms of players that have been good, I think Rafinha has still been the best on the team. He's got 2 goals in their last 2 matches. He's just a step above the rest of them, I think, right now.
Has been putting in some performances as well. Welsh Sonic, he's been all right. I'm not even gonna lie. He's better. He has been looking like a better player. But I mean, then again, when you when you go from being coached from Mr. Good Vibes to being coached by, an extremely tactically astute manager who expects nothing but absolute perfection, of course you will turn into a better player. Jose, would you say that Welsh Sonic has been looking like a better player under Bielsa?
I mean, I've just been thankful that I don't have to watch him play for us anymore. But I think he definitely has become a better player under Bielsa, as most players would. But to talk about the Bielsa sacking thing, I think that it might just not work for Bielsa to manage Leeds in the Premier League, because I think Bielsa would be perfect for a team with more quality. But with Leeds, it's difficult to play that open attacking football without being exposed at the back. Because I think he just needs a better quality defenders to be able to play his style to the best ability that he can.
100%. I mean, this defense has always been a weak point. I mean, I've never been convinced by Pascal Struijk, never been convinced by Robin Koch, Diego Llorente. Just I haven't been convinced. I really haven't. But moving into the next side, and that is Leicester. And seriously, Leicester have had some decent results, but I mean, the first result, it's really not that hard to beat Manchester United these days. Winning 4-2, winning against Brentford, losing to Arsenal and drawing Leeds. Scores for Mr. Bottle Job, Brendan Rodgers, and Leicester all around, and players on both the positive and negative spectrums for you that stood out.
Yeah, not like a terrible result. Last 4 games, did well against Man U and Brentford. Was struggling Brentford side recently. In terms of strong players that have been good in the last 4 games, Vardy and Tielemans both have 2 goals in those 4 games. Jamie Vardy's been consistently a quality striker the last couple of years. Even at his older age, it's still pretty impressive. Someone who's been struggling, I think, have to be Ricardo Pereira. I know he, the game against Arsenal, he struggled a lot. So, sorry, not Arsenal. The game against Leeds, he struggled a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. 100%. And what score did you give Leicester in?
Oh, sorry, I'd give them like a 5.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair. Maybe arguably push it to 6 because for thrashing the second best club in Manchester at the moment. But then again, when you're up against Fridge and Freezer, it really isn't that difficult to get a lot of goals off. But next we have Liverpool and Jose. They have been running riots in the Premier League this season, looking back to their normal selves relatively. Thumping Watford and Manchester United both by 5-0, drawing Brighton 2-2 at home, and losing to West Ham, obviously, last game for the international break. And scores for Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. And other than Mo Salah, I'm just going to take Mo Salah out of it because he's the best player in the world right now in terms of form. Players that have stood out to you in both negative and positive ways.
Oh, okay. I mean, so many players are sticking out at Liverpool at the moment. Obviously, you said Mo Salah already. He's been definitely their best player. Trent Alexander-Arnold is another one, getting goals and assists all over the place. I think he could still improve defensively as he always could, but I think his attacking attributes to the team right now are really, really good. I really would not say that Liverpool are back to their best yet. I think that their win against us was very much us being terrible rather than them being amazing. I think a lot of their goals were sloppy on our part, and that's why they got them. And the Brighton game and the West Ham game, I was kind of disappointed with the lack of commitment on defense from them in those games.
I wasn't saying they were 100% back to the best, but they looked like they're getting back to the best.
I would argue that they were a lot better when the season began, and in the past few games they've kind of dropped off a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely. I actually agree with that fully. I think when the season began, they looked a lot more intimidating than they do now. They just look like they're just starting to crack a bit. Like something like they've just started to fall off. I think that Manchester United game since then, when I look at the next 2 games, it just seems like, in terms of goals conceded, it just hasn't seemed like they've been super concerned with that.
Mm-hmm.
Why they're conceding goals, I don't know. I mean, I'm not Jurgen Klopp, but I mean, what would you give Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp for for
I'd
these
probably
games.
give Jurgen Klopp I'd go like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, fair enough. I go.
I think they won. I think they won 2 easy games, and they didn't win 2 difficult games.
Very true. Very true. All right. Next, well, we have Man City and Andre. I mean, what more can I say about Man City? I mean, 3 games won, 1 lost. Wins against Burnley and Brighton, but then losing to Crystal Palace, and of course a very easy win against Manchester United. Very easy. Ratings for Pep Guardiola and Man City for these past 4 games, and players that have stood out to you on both the negative and positive spectrums for you.
Yeah, I'd give them an 8. They've had an easy run of fixtures generally, but they look promising, very promising. I still don't think they've hit their peak yet,
No,
but they'll promise solidity throughout the whole season. The Pep Roulette has been very strong. The squad this season is developing at a similar competitive level. They're still obviously a title contender to be reckoned with. They still haven't hit their climax. So I think we'll see that second half of the season. So they're building very steadily. They sit right now 2nd level on points with West Ham. So it's early days, but yeah, I'd still give them an 8. They're playing very well. It's expected City. In terms of best players, Cancelo maybe has been quite brilliant.
And very, very good.
Yeah.
Did you see what Gary Neville said about Cancelo? Apparently, Gary Neville claims to be somewhat responsible for Cancelo's development at Valencia when he was there managing Valencia. Allegedly. And he said he rang a certain English club to recommend João Cancelo, and apparently the club ignored his calls. I can't honestly like Gary Neville. I'll always love Gary Neville as a player, as a legend, but when it comes to punditry, yeah, next one, please. And getting into the next club, which is severely crippled a lot of people's mental health, and I greatly sympathize with those whose mental health has been crippled, as well as Jose's. Manchester United. I mean, what can I say? I mean, counting up the goals conceded in the past 4 games, 14 goals conceded in 4 games. I mean, that is just shambolic. I mean, losing 4-2 against Leicester, 5-0 against Liverpool, winning against Tottenham by 3-0, but especially Tottenham may as well play Norwich, and losing to Man City 2-0 at home when it should have been 5 or 6. I mean, ratings for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and if he was to be sacked, he definitely won't, but if he was to be sacked, who would realistically your number 1 candidate be to replace him? And players on the positive and negative.
Yeah, I think the most revealing statistics are those of the teams who've already sacked their manager this season. I think all of those teams have had better, if not the same results that we've had, and they're all worse teams than us. So the fact that our manager is still in his job is just a bit outrageous at this point. If I were to rate, I think, let me say bright spots first. Our only bright spot is Cristiano Ronaldo. He's the only player who's been consistently great for us this season.
I give one to David De Gea. David De Gea at times.
Oh yeah, I would agree. David De Gea. He's had a few mishaps in the past few games. But I really think that they're made up for by the fact that he probably stopped 4 or 5 goals by himself in the Man City game alone, and was fantastic in all the other games as well.
Definitely, 100%. And I'm pretty sure I already know what you're going to say about ratings for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
0 out of 10 for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yep. And players on the negative aspects, just to name a few.
Players on the negative aspects. Okay, hang on. Let me get a starting lineup, and I'll list a few. Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Lindelof. Bailly was good in 1 game. Yeah, I can't remember which one. Probably, I think it was the Champions League.
Even against City, Bailly was still the best of the 3 center backs. Not saying
Well,
that.
of course. But then he gets injured, as he always does. Later on in the season. Who else has been bad? Fred, McTominay.
Oh, yeah, that's
Rashford's been okay. Rashford's been scoring a few goals. Sancho hasn't gone to play at all. Van de Beek hasn't gone to play at all. That's, of course. And then Wan-Bissaka has been
He's been all right.
average.
He's been okay. I wouldn't say he's.
Average. Yeah.
I mean, Paul Pogba's out till the new year, so I mean, I already know who's going to be playing in our midfield pivot. I just already know, and that's really gonna pain.
Mhm.
I'll go over Manchester United, and then I'll give my evaluation. I mean, for me, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, first, I'll give a good vibrator. So the ratings for the good vibes for me, it's a 0 because there's just no good vibes at the moment. So the one thing he specializes in, he can't even do it well. In terms of just the actual ratings for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'll give him a 1 because at least he turns up with the shirt on the right way. Actually, no. I'm not even going to give him a point for putting his shirt on the right way. He gets a 0. He definitely gets a 0 as well. I give the Glazers a 0. And Manchester United a 0 for the past 4 games. The Tottenham game was a very simple game. You may as well play Norwich because Tottenham were non-existent.
He could have rolled up with 11 forwards that game and won that game.
Wait, Dave, I have a question.
What?
So you say you give the Glazers a 0,
Yes, the
but
Glazers.
didn't you sign over the summer multiple signings? How is this on the? Are you on the Glazers because they don't fire Ole? Is that why?
No, I'm saying for the past 4 games, when looking at a run of form, he shouldn't be in a job. Solskjaer should not be in a job. And even with the summer recruitment,
Yeah, they should have fired him a long time ago. He should have been fired like 2 years ago, dude.
And also, bravo to the Glazers for finally fully backing a manager. You should have done that years ago. But no, you didn't. You didn't do that years ago, did you? You only just started doing it now, after everyone literally rioted over the Super League. So yeah, give yourselves a big hand. Joel Glazer and Ed Woodward, Richard Arnold, all of them, cannot stand them. They need to go. They absolutely need to go. They need to go in the bin. Will they? No, they won't. They will never sell this club. They're even worse than the Cronkies. They're honestly worse than the Cronkies. They're worse than Daniel Levy. They really are. Actually, no. I'd probably say just as bad as Daniel Levy. Maybe a little better because they spend money. But honestly, that's not a compliment to be given. But yeah, players that are bright sparks: David De Gea, Cristiano Ronaldo, Edinson Cavani, when he's been given the minutes, has actually looked promising. Marcus Rashford's looked all right. In terms of if I could give 3 negative aspects in terms of players, Luke Shaw, I love the guy to death. I said he was the best left back in the league, arguably in the world last season. He's looked a shadow of his former self. I wonder why. Because maybe in games when, you could rest and rotate players, a certain manager didn't rest his players, did he? Oh, what a surprise. Ran into the ground. Maybe that's why he's injured and not with England right now. Magaluf, awful, but, everyone's known that for years. For the past 2 or 3 seasons, everyone knows Magaluf doesn't work. And McFred, same thing. Yeah, that's about it for Manchester United. I could go on for hours on end. But
I think I just want to add really quick. I think probably the only reason Ole is still in a job is because of all of his friends on Sky Sports,
absolutely,
who don't want to say that he should be sacked.
only real.
I just want to keep blaming the players or saying that you just need to give him some time.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Rio Ferdinand, I'll give him some credit. He more or less said, yeah, Ole's not the guy. So, you don't let, steps made in the right direction. I'll give Rio Ferdinand some credit. In terms of the other Man United legends that are pundits, honestly, you need to take a hard, long look at yourselves. In my honest opinion, I heard what Roy Keane said after the Manchester derby when he said, I grab hold of him and said, why are you playing Fred? Oh wait, no, that's half the midfield problem. But no, let's not mention the other midfielder because he's a United Academy product and he's British or Scottish to be specific.
It's also like it's getting ridiculous at this point. You've got Roy Keane at the end of the game complaining about how he only got 1 yellow card, and then the game before, and then the Liverpool game when Pogba goes and gets a red card. What's his name? Paul Scholes goes and berates him after the match. Like it's it's ridiculous that they're not blaming the manager and instead like going on these double standards about players that they don't like for whatever reason.
At least Gary Neville's by far the worst in terms of just the whole thing. I can't be asked. I honestly can't be asked. In terms of the channels that I've been on, everyone really shares our opinions on the pundits. I can't be asked. But getting into Newcastle. Newcastle, of course, they've had the big takeover, and that's been done. Amanda Staveley, I think, hopefully I said that right. Hopefully I did. But I know Amanda's her first name, but I'll call her Amanda for now. Amanda, she's now the new chairman of Newcastle, taking place of Mike Ashley. And looking at the results, Steve Bruce's last game, losing 3-2 to Tottenham, then he got sacked. Drawing Crystal Palace, losing 3-0 to Chelsea, and drawing Brighton. Ratings for Newcastle and Graham Jones, the interim manager, and players both positive and negative. And thoughts in the appointment of Eddie Howe. I thought that was super interesting how it came down between him and Emery. Emery said him staying at Villarreal, and then point Eddie Howe. That very much when Manchester City were taken over and they appointed Mark Hughes.
Obviously the club takeover was interesting. I think I actually like Eddie Howe. Not many people know the story how he brought Bournemouth all the way up to the Premier League through many divisions. Inspiration for Bournemouth. I think overall the last 4 games they did have tough opposition with Chelsea and Tottenham. Some bright spots. Callum Wilson, who I think can be very good for them, has 2 goals in his last 4 games. Not bad. I don't get why Jonjo Shelby still plays. He hasn't been good. He got a red card against Tottenham, he got a red card against Tottenham. I still don't know why he's playing. They're gonna have to figure that out. Obviously, they now have the money to do so. So it's gonna be an exciting summer. Overall, I'd give those results. I'd probably give it like 4 or 5. Maybe could have done something against Brighton and Crystal Palace, but at least they didn't lose against those 2. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Steve Bruce deserved to be sacked, or do you think no, maybe giving him maybe a few more games, or do you think he needed to go?
That's tough because I think he did a decent job coming in. I feel like with the new owners taking over, I think they wanted to expand. They just want to expand and sign new players, and I feel like what they thought was that Steve Bruce wasn't the right man to do so. I don't think they thought of him as incompetent. I think they just needed a new change with all the new players they're going to start getting.
Fair enough. Yeah, you said that perfectly. You said that very, very well, Sirius. And do you think Eddie Howe is the right man for this Newcastle squad for them to go forward? Do you really think, he's the guy? Do you think Newcastle should have searched for someone bigger, like not Unai Emery, obviously, because he wanted to say it at Villarreal, but someone of that stature, that name?
It's tough. Kind of have a bias because I do like Eddie Howe. But maybe they could have gone for a bit more of a big name manager, more of a manager who's had more successes, especially at the top level. Not discrediting Eddie Howe. I think he did an amazing job with Bournemouth, but
good manager.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they could have, but you got Eddie Howe's manager, so I'm excited to see how he'll do.
Yeah, definitely. And also go on to the other 2. Jose, starting with you. Do you think Eddie Howe's the right appointment for Newcastle, or do you think someone else would have been better? I mean, as I've said, Unai Emery, reports of Paulo Fonseca, Steven Gerrard, who looks like he'll be getting the Villa job. Brendan Rodgers is even in the discussions.
You mentioned Paulo Fonseca. I don't really know where the hype around him comes from. I think he was a very average Roma coach. That's really all he's got going for him. But I don't know if Eddie Howe is the right man for the job, but I think that he will be a vast improvement on Steve Bruce, and I think that he'll be good at least for the transition, and maybe then he'll show that he's good enough to take Newcastle going forward from there.
Yeah, I think so. Andre, would you say the same, or do you think differently?
No, I mean, you'd think so just because of the excitement around the club that maybe they could use a big name manager, but I think it'd be hard to attract one even with their vast funds. I think that won't happen for another maybe 2 years. So I think for me, Eddie Howe was a great appointment. I think he'll bring them back to glory. I think they've got to stay in. That's the ultimate thing. Is if they do not stay in, then they're absolutely going to struggle to attract top class talent in the champion. They've got to stay in. I think Eddie Howe knows how to work with a group of players of this level. So I think I think Eddie Howe is a good appointment. I have a lot of hope for Newcastle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, do I think Eddie Howe is the right person? I don't know. Possibly. I mean, we'll just have to see. I mean, we kind of have to wait till January to see what Newcastle do with the money. And I've heard small rumors and talks that apparently Eddie Howe wants Kieran Trippier at the club. And that will obviously be the kickoff to a massive overhaul and squad overhaul for Newcastle if they look to be competing with the top dogs of the Premier League. But Andre, sticking with you in Norwich, of course, this resulted in Daniel Farke's sacking, draws to Brighton, losing to Chelsea 7-0, losing to Leeds, and beating Brentford right before the international break. Scores for Daniel Farke in Norwich, and did he really deserve to be sacked? And regardless, who would your ideal replacement be for Daniel Farke in the eyes of yourself or the Norwich board, and players both on the bright and worst spectrums?
Yeah, those are good questions. Look, for Norwich, I don't really know what Norwich's expectations are. I think it's a tough one because you want to play pretty football and play quality football like they were under Daniel Farke, but you also want to stay up, right? That's a big thing for them right now. Their pretty football thing worked in the championship, but they seem to struggle every time they're up in the Prem playing this type of way. It would be depressing to see that if they were so desperate to stay up that they bring in like a Slaven Bilic type, someone that's just gonna lock up around the box. Like, it would be kind of sad to see that. I don't know if that's what they need. I don't know if that's what they want. I don't really know what their expectations are because personally I completely rate Daniel Farke as a manager. But if they're not willing to stick with Daniel Farke's way, they're like, okay, it's been 2-3 years and it's like the same thing year in, year out. They're not willing. They don't really have the energy to keep backing him in January or just going forward. If they're just going to keep bouncing from league to league, then I get why they're doing it. I don't really know what I want to see there, but I hope that we don't see that just lock up in the box like I said before. He's a good manager, so it's a controversial sacking either way. I don't know much about the fan base or the feeling around the club, but I still assume there's probably a division there too.
Definitely.
There has to be. It's also very peculiar that it happened right after their first win, maybe right when there was a glimmer of hope that things could start to upturn. But it is what it is. That's what's happened. In terms of Norwich, I'd probably give them. I guess we can give them a 2. Yeah, it's a weird one, but it's weird. I don't know what their expectations are. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Any players that stood out to you on the negative or positive side?
I'm a bad guy to ask. I can't really think of any right now. Do you guys have any? I don't know.
I mean, Timo Pukki is just kind of doing this thing. I mean, Timo Pukki does what Timo Pukki does. He's still the man to score goals for Norwich. Norman, the midfielder, he scored a brilliant goal against Brentford, and his performances have been looking, better comparatively to some of the other players in the squad. Billy Gilmore. Now, I think a lot of people are thinking the kid's gonna play. He's going to get a lot of playing time, but he hasn't, and that's been a big issue for him. And I've been hearing reports that Frank Lampard could be a man to take his place. Do you think that'd be a good appointment for Norwich? I'll go around to good appointment, Frank Lampard for Norwich.
I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't go for Lampard. He is a big name, but I mean, he saw success with Derby County, I guess. I don't know. I think I'd go for someone else, but I'm not sure. It seems like it seems like somewhat of a lateral move. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I think if you're Norwich right now, you go for someone who's like someone who's very good at getting teams out of trouble. I think that they probably fired Daniel Falk because they wanted to try to stay up this season. And I think that they just feel like if they leave him in the job, it'll just lead to another season of being bottom of the league the entire time. So I think that they probably only want to go for someone who is more proven in getting teams out of trouble than for someone like Frank Lampard, who failed at Chelsea.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Sirius, what about you? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Lovely. Next we have Southampton, and Southampton have had good results. They've not lost a single game in the past four. Win against Leeds. They did draw against Burnley, but then also wins against Watford and Aston Villa, which coincidentally, all their wins in these past four games have all been by goal to nil. Scores for Southampton and Ralph Hasenhüttl, and players on the positive and negative spectrum that have stood out for you.
Yeah, I give him a 9. I give him a 9 out of 10. I think that they've played really well in these games, and I think that they've had probably the easiest fixture list of any team on our list. But I think that they're very limited going forward, particularly, and I think that they've played to their strengths and they've played really well. I think if I'm going to point out some players, definitely Tino Livramento, the 18-year-old defender, has looked incredible for them. He's gotten man of the match in I think like 3 out of their 4 games that they've played. Armstrong is finally firing, which is really good for them. He got an assist and a goal, and in I think 2 separate games for them, which was crucial to them getting 6 points in those 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Armstrong showed glimpses of it at the beginning of the season, the first game or two, then just went missing for a while, and he's coming back to form. I definitely saw something in Armstrong. I thought that he could be a decent player for them, a decent striker for them. And I mean, you did spend a good amount of money on him. What was it? I think 15 to 20 million pounds on Armstrong, if I'm not wrong. You know, that's, I mean, for Southampton, that's big money. And they're definitely going to try and, you know, get the most out of it and the most out of him as well. Of course, James Ward-Prowse is James Ward-Prowse. No statements need to be made. It's also been very good. Salisu at the back. I think Salisu's been excellent. He's been so good for them. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you've been saying. Next, we have Tottenham Hotspur, and overall, what another wonderful 4 games for Tottenham Hotspur. It's been wonderful for Tottenham. Superb result against Newcastle by just getting over the line by winning by 3 goals to 2. And you know what? Do you know what we can all do? Let's give a round of applause for Harry Kane for scoring his first goal of the season. Woo! Has as many goals as Tony Martial. Anyways,
Yeah.
Losing to West Ham and then getting battered 3-0 by Man United. But then again, if you look at the bigger picture, Tottenham didn't win El Sacico. Maybe not on the pitch, but they definitely won it off of it, as Nuno Espirito Santo was then sacked and Antonio Conte brought in. So welcome back to the Premier League for the Italian. And he restarted his Premier League experiences by getting a 0-0 draw against Everton. Scores for Nuno Espirito Santo. We're not gonna rate Conte from 1 game. Scores for Nuno and Tottenham. Was his sacking justified? Thoughts on the Conte appointment, Andre, and players on, you know, on both the good side and the Harry Kane side. I mean the bad side.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, a lot has happened with my club. Before I start, I'd like to say, Davis, I am gonna choose my words wisely. So what I don't want is I'm gonna talk and then you're gonna make up some statement that has never been said on the show, put it in quotes, and then dash it next to someone's name. You put headlines that nobody has ever said in the whole 80 minutes that we shoot the show. You do this constantly. So please don't misquote me when I talk about this Nuno sacking. Okay, let's go. Okay, you do this all the time. All right.
I do because I know you enjoy Andre. I know you.
Look, my heart says that Nuno is a good guy, but I think when I became a Spurs supporter, it was because they were overachievers. And what I don't want is to be underachievers, and then rival fans want a manager to stay because of how shit we're playing. Okay, I can't have that. Like that's the worst thing ever.
That's Manchester United to a T at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And that it was for a while when Arteta was struggling too. Like no top six club wants to be that when other rival fans want your coach to stay because of how shit you are. When you look at Nuno, we've lost countless derbies. The only good actual tough match that we won was City. We've lost countless London derbies. The underlying stats are just really horrible, and just numerous players were underperforming. So Nuno is a good guy. I think at his next job, he's gonna come back. I think he'll do well. But the fact is, just things were not going to plan with us. It's weird because he was just manager of the month like a few weeks ago. But whatever, football moves fast. So Nuno lately, I'd say he gets a 2. He's just been he's looked very ill prepared. But I do like the guy. So bring on Conte. I think it makes it immediately it just completely puts our plan to become good again just way faster because the board are going to have to back Conte.
Otherwise, they want to appointed Antonio Conte, and I think the whole Nuno thing, even when a negative vibe just around the club for a lot of it, and Nuno was never the first choice. I think even the players knew that. Daniel Levy knew that. Fabio Paratici knew that. And I felt sorry for Nuno because, the man tried. He genuinely tried, but, the man should have never been given the job in the first place, clearly, looking at the results that they've gotten. But before we get to the players on both the positive and negative side, and regarding Conte, I want to ask the other two. Sir, starting with you, do you think Conte, and be 100% honest here, do you think Conte is a good appointment for Tottenham, or Tottenham going in the right direction? And if so, does that make them a bigger proposition for just competing for higher places in the league? Not saying trophies, because, Tottenham is Tottenham, but, does that make them a bigger proposition?
Yeah, not being biased, I think it was a good signing. I think he's gonna make them a little better than they were. But at the end of the day, you're right. They're not gonna win Jack all still, so it's okay.
Jose, what about you? What would you say? Do you think this is a good appointment for Tottenham as well?
Yeah, I think Conte is a great appointment, but I think I do want to emphasize. I think that Nuno getting sacked. I really don't think it's his fault at all. I think that what you said about him being a victim of the circumstance, he obviously was not the first choice, and everyone knew that. Was kind of harmful. I think that the players really were not playing for him whatsoever. Maybe they did in the first 3 games, but against us, I didn't see any kind of motivation from any of the players. So I really feel for him. I think he's a good manager, and I think he will do well elsewhere. And I wish things could have worked out better for him at Tottenham.
Yeah, definitely. I think Tottenham was just too big of a step for Nuno. I think he had just taken smaller steps. In my opinion, I think that would have been a better option. But Andre, getting back to you and Tottenham, players who've been, the small bright sparks in this torrid run of form.
Lucas Moura has been a titan. He doesn't let anything get to him. He's just he's just constantly energetic on the pitch. He's been very good.
The Brazilian James.
What is it? You cut out.
The Brazilian Dan James.
That's not true at all. Son Heung-min has still looked strong. He wasn't great in our last match against Everton and United, but still he's carried us on his back before.
Christian Romero.
Oliver Skip, that's the other one. He's been great in defensive midfield. Pretty close to pushing Højbjerg off the spot, even if we play one center defensive mid. Hugo Lloris has also been very good. I can't really say that not any of our starting 11 has been exceptionally poor except for Harry Kane. They're all just very mid, and it's just there's dysfunction everywhere else. There's some stat that it's we have one of the highest number of touches in the final third, but in the actual opposition box, it's the lowest. Like that just proves to you that we're just passing side to side around their defense. It's just a sign of relying on counterattacking. So it's just there's just a lot wrong tactically that was causing that. But yeah, I can't really single out many of the other players. Kane, Dele Alli, those are the ones that are shits. Everyone else is fine.
What about Romero though? I think he's been a revelation since coming. I think he's been outstanding.
Yeah, for me that was expected. I mean, I think you saw it in the first half. I mean, David, I was raving about him, and then you saw it, I think, in the first half against United that he was out there. He was tackling. He was great. Seemed to have Ronaldo in his pocket at first, but it didn't work out. I love Romero. He comes up a lot. Like he's a very proactive defender, but he's going to be a success. I think he can be good.
Højbjerg's been looking poor as well in the past couple games. And he's usually one we get praise to all the time, but. Are you concerned with Højbjerg's form at all?
No, because he's probably just being a little overworked. He played one of the highest number of minutes out of everyone in the top 5 leagues in Europe last season. We also have decent backup there, and Oliver Skip. We're being linked to a couple defensive mids. So for me, no, I'm not really too concerned about it. I think we have we can give Højbjerg a rest and still look solid.
Well, anyways, Sirius, back to you. Getting into Watford, hasn't been looking great for Claudio Ranieri. I mean, they've conceded 7 goals, but on the flip side, they have conceded. No, my bad. No, they've conceded 9, not 7. They've conceded 9 goals. But on the flip side, they have scored 5. So I mean, not bad. I mean, it was against a shambolic Everton side, but losing 5-0 against Liverpool, beating Everton 5-2, but 1-0 losses against Southampton and Arsenal. Scores for Claudio Ranieri's first 4 games for Watford, and scores for Watford itself, and players that have stood out on the positive and negative side for you.
Yeah. So, excuse me. It hasn't been the best. They haven't won in the last 4 games, but again, their schedule. I'm sorry, they did beat Everton. My bad, lol. But again, their schedule has still been hard. With Arsenal, and Liverpool. The Liverpool, it was a big amount they lost by, but at the end of the day, they weren't expected to beat Liverpool or Arsenal. Some players who have been doing well for them. I think Ben Foster's been solid this season, even conceding 5. I think they weren't his fault. He had a good save.
Cycling GK.
Sorry?
The cycling GK.
Yeah.
Cycling GK.
Cycling GK.
The man's YouTube channel.
Someone who's also been good who got revenge on his former side was Joshua King. 3 goals against Everton, quite impressive. If I could say that someone has been bad, at least against Arsenal.
Wireless family plans
Danny
save you
Rose-
money,
what the-
but then you have to deal with.
Danny Rose got absolutely shagged on. So yeah, which makes me happy.
Danny Rose. I can't be honest with Danny Rose. Like, I mean, Danny Rose said it himself. I mean, he was the best left back at Tottenham, and looking at Tottenham's current form, probably still would be. I know Wandre would not be happy with that. Getting to looking at a more positive team in the Premier League, and a team that again it's just been so impressive, and you just got to give it to the manager and the squad and whatnot. It's West Ham. I mean, they're in their 3rd place in the Premier League. They're above Liverpool now. Seems like they are coming right to compete with the top 6 for European spots this year. Could very well win the Europa League. I'm so impressed with West Ham. They won all 4 games, wins against Everton, Tottenham, Aston Villa, and Liverpool. Definitely not the easiest of a fixture list either. Scores for David Moyes and West Ham, and players besides Mikel Antonio, because Mikel Antonio has just been unbelievable. But players besides Mikel Antonio for you, Jose, that have stood out.
10 out of 10 for David Moyes. I think he's done an excellent job. I think on current form, they're the best team in the league at the moment. I think that their defense has been incredible. I think that they were really unlucky to concede 2 against Liverpool. It was just 2 moments of brilliance from Alexander-Arnold and from Origi to score those goals. I think that they've been doing really well going forward and doing well in defense. If I were to pick someone out, I'd probably go with Declan Rice. I can't remember which pundit said this, but someone said he was the best in the world in his position. And I disagree, but I think it is difficult to find people who are better than Declan Rice at the moment.
It's hard to find someone in the world that's a better defensive midfielder than Declan Rice regarding form. In terms of just the quality we know that all players have, I'd have to disagree. N'Golo Kante, still plays cricket, and Joshua Kimmich still swims laps in the pool, and Casemiro still plays golf. You still have players like that, in my opinion, that are just miles ahead of Declan Rice. Those players are world class, but I agree with all of that. West Ham are just superb at the moment, and Kurt Zouma has made a huge difference as well.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think he's looked at home at West Ham. I think that I'm happy for him that he's gone to play more there, and he's looked dominant, and he's looked in control of games.
Definitely, 100%. And last but not least, as usual, we have Wolves win against Villa, draw against Leeds, a win against Everton, and a loss against Crystal Palace. Andre, scores for Wolves and Bruno Lage, and players that have stood out for you on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think they've been great. To give them like a 7. I think they look like they're firing under Bruno Lage. They're very exciting to watch. Neves has been an anchor in midfield. Raul Jimenez is starting to regain his form, and to me it's all very exciting. They're a very strong team, and despite the change in management, they haven't lost their energy, the energy that makes them so great. So they're a very energetic team. I think we have old Wolves back, the one that finished 7th place, is what I mean by that. I think they can push for a top half finish. They're looking strong. So I'd give them like a 7-8. And that comeback win was great too. I'd give them like a 7.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And with that wraps up episode 4. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you've seen, smash like on the video. Comment.
Davis, before you end it, I forgot to mention one player at Watford who's been good.
And before Sirius mentions whatever you need to mention, have a great day or evening. But Sirius, what do you need to mention now?
Yeah, I thought up top D's has been really good for Watford.
Yeah, have a great day.
D's?